Well, hello everybody. Second video here, and I am going to discuss a topic that I brought up with Jimmy in one of his live streams. Why have transgenders sort of been abandoned by the gay, lesbian, and bisexual community? Well, the reasoning behind it all goes all the way back to the 80s and into the earliest of the 90s, where AIDS first came out. There was a deal basically made between the CDC, the WHO, and the gay and lesbian groups out there in California. The CDC came to these groups back in the mid 80s and discussed with them the coming of AIDS and said, well, you guys need to warn the gay populace as much as you can about this. Well, they agreed because it was a dire situation. But there was also something else that they wanted. And what they wanted was exposure. The idea was, hey, we need to be able to talk about this to the public as a whole. So agreements were quietly made based on the idea that the LGB community at the time would get media exposure in a positive way so that AIDS could be discussed. So by about the earliest of 90s that I can remember, they started talking about gay folks on TV, and of course the media got involved. And this was to stop the spread of AIDS. It wasn't as effective as most people thought it would be. But still, the community got its exposure, and the idea was to normalize homosexuality in that it would help stop the spread of AIDS, especially after they discovered that AIDS spread amongst everyone. It wasn't an exclusively gay disease. Now, in the background, in the shadows, one might say, one other thing was going on. The transsexual community at this time, during the late 80s, early 90s, and yes, the pedophiles, specifically NAMBLA, also wanted to throw their hat into the ring and assist in spreading the truth about AIDS. Well, the gay community basically came to these two groups and said, look, you guys, off in the shadows for a little bit. Let us normalize homosexuality, and then you guys can come in behind us. Now, here's the truth of the freaking matter. The gay community had no desire to help either of these groups. But they needed them to shut up and go away for a little bit. Normalization was possible, but for those two groups, the transgenders and the pedophiles, it was not seen as possible. And the gays figured that if they let these two sets of folks stand up with them, that it would immediately turn the public against homosexuals. And they were right. So, all throughout the 90s, the gays launched their own sort of little campaign to get into every last part of society that they could. Specialized rights for work and all these other things. And they all kind of fell apart over time. One of the biggest things I can remember back during the late 90s into the 2000s was the idea that, especially out in California, that students needed a specialized counselor if they were gay. So they wanted a gay school counselor. The school counselor had to be gay, so gay students would have someone to come talk to. This was shot down and poo-pooed in every other state but California. California at first said, yeah, we're going to do it. Then they changed their minds. So the gays learned pretty damn quickly that when you started getting into the schools and you started dealing with people's kids, that you're going to be shot down pretty quickly. And you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. Kind of hard to normalize when you're trying to talk to people's kids at the same time. So what would happen is that over the years, of course, you had the okaying of gay marriage through the Obama administration. When the gays finally got that, they figured, we got what we want. We're done. We're not saying much else. Well, the transgendered folks then popped up and said, well, wait a minute. What about us? What about us? You're supposed to help us. And most of the gay folks by that point were, especially the young folks like people around my age, we were in our earliest of 30s at best. And we were all saying, nah, we got what we want. You guys help yourselves. So the transgendered folks picked up the tools and the ideas and the media that was left behind by the gay folks once gay marriage was legalized, at least through the federal government, and started up their own campaign. And of course, they kind of jumped the gun with the whole going into the schools thing. Oh, there's trans children in the schools. Oh, we need to be able to talk about transgenderism and homosexuality and blah, 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 blah. Now, what's happening is the gay folks have finally started saying, oh, look, guys, leave that alone. Push for your rights every place else, but stay out of the schools. This is not a good place to go. But the transgender folks, especially those who are older, like around my age and maybe in their 30s, they are the ones saying, look, we don't want anything to do with the school thing. The sad matter of the fact is that you have all of these allies running around, these people in their 20s, these millennial types, these Zoomer types, who are so damned desperate to belong to something that they're willing to push their own agenda, or the agenda that they think that they're allied with. This makes things ultimately worse because these people are so neurotic and crazy, they don't realize how they're screwing things up for everybody else. This is why you have a lot of LGBT organizations out in Britain casting off the T, because mainly the reality of it all is that transgenderism is not a sexuality. It's a lifestyle choice at best, an identity at worst, and a mental issue in most truths. So most gay folks and lesbians, bisexuals, all of them are looking at it and saying, this isn't a sexuality. This is a choice about your life because of your mental state. So since this isn't a sexuality, why are we going to support anything you guys want? It's not going to help us, and it's really not going to help you get anything either. So that's pretty much the whole deal of it. You could say that the LGB community is being very selfish, but the reality of things is that if it has nothing to do with you and it's only going to cause you troubles, you want to leave it alone. And that's really the whole deal of it. The transgender folks are basically on their own. And they're going to have to figure out a way to normalize things as best they can. I personally do not agree with that. Normalizing mental issues and the mutilation of your own body is not a good thing to do, in my opinion. But to sort of cap this all off, basically the gay, lesbian, and bisexual community realized that the transgenders were just not a good idea to support. And with the coming of all of these 15 different genders and sexualities and 100 different ones and demi-gendered and all this non-binary gendered stuff, basically the gay community and the bisexual community were like, okay, you people are nuts. There aren't 15 different genders. There aren't 100 different sexualities. And you can't just on a whim decide what gender you are when you wake up in the morning. That doesn't make any damn sense. Okay, you can't get up one morning and say, well, I'm feeling a little more girly today, so I'm going to put on my dress and put on some makeup and wander about. And then the next day when you get up, you're feeling a little more masculine, so you're going to put on the lumberjack shirt and a pair of blue jeans and walk around acting as if you're the biggest, toughest male on the planet. And if you're not sure how you feel the day after that, well, you're going to mix and match your clothes like you do bad pairs of socks and then just wander around coming up with new pronouns for everyone to tell you what you are. No, that's not going to work, and you're not going to get people to agree to that, even if they are gay, lesbian, or bisexual. So, well, that's about it for all of this. Hopefully I will be making some more videos over time. Hopefully the audio quality will be a whole lot better. And Jimmy, thumbs up to your brother, man. I hope everything's going all right. Everybody take care. Please like and subscribe and comment on this video. Thank you.